We've got Richard Falkenrath, our contributing editor, with us here in New York. It's a pleasure to actually have you here. And Juliana pointed out we have not seen retaliation from the North. And you and I were talking before. You say the reason for that is China.
Yeah, I think the main thing holding North Korea back now is whatever they're hearing privately from Beijing. Beijing is really the only country with any influence on North Korea. Publicly, Beijing has been very reserved. The question is, what are they saying privately to the North?
Well, does this mean, because we sort of had this conversation a month ago, that the administration's channels with Beijing are successful?
Well, yes, the administration has been working very hard to avoid an escalation of this situation in Korea, but China has no interest in a conflict on the Korean peninsula either. This is very bad for China if there's war between North and South, and we think they've been working behind the scenes to try to damp things down without embarrassing North Korea publicly.
Do you think that we're going to see the next couple of days kind of bump along in this uncertain way, or are we in for maybe a period of calm now?
Well, it's never really calm on the Korean peninsula. This is the most militarized part of the world. And my guess, there's a domestic pressure in North Korea to do something. And I think they probably won't. They're going to do something. It's not clear what it is. It may not involve shelling a civilian island. It may not be shooting down an aircraft. But they're going to find some way to keep attention on themselves.
One of the things that is going on here is that there are political pressures for the governments in the North and the South, both externally and internally.
That's exactly right. In the North, there's a succession process underway. The current leader, Kim Jong-il, is trying to transfer power to his son, Kim Jong-un. And when you do that, you need to show strength and toughness. And that's one of the explanations, we think, for the shelling that occurred last month. In the South, completely different. You have a pro-U.S. conservative president who's being attacked domestically quite viciously for being seen as weak and feckless on defense.
And maybe a little too pro-U.S. in the trade deal?
Yes. This started for him, this political trouble started for him really back with it started with the trade deal, and then even before that with the beef crisis over the import of contaminated U.S. beef.
You know, we talk about the smaller actions, shelling, statements of retaliation, but all of this has the backdrop of potential nuclear war.
That's right. This is one of probably the two most dangerous places on Earth, the other being India and Pakistan, where even a small conflict could escalate, get out of control, and turn into a nuclear exchange. It's basically impossible to predict how likely that is, but we know the likelihood is not zero, and therefore it's too high.
So what do we watch for in the next couple of days?
Well, you really hope that when North Korea responds, and they probably will, it will be measured and we move on to something else, some other issue. Former Governor Bill Richardson is there now. There are a few sort of token, almost window dressing concessions that the North has made. That will give us enough of a fig leaf to start talking again.
Do you think we move toward a formal resumption of the six-party talks?
Well, it's a good question. The U.S. position right now is no, we don't reward bad behavior like this. The North really has to agree to denuclearize and disarm.
But they need them to talk to do that.
And so what's happening is happening through back channels, through an unofficial U.S. envoy, Bill Richardson, and then secretly through China.
Fair enough. Let's turn to the other foreign policy topic that we want to talk about, which is the renewal of the START treaty. And to set the stage for our viewers, this actually isn't a massive treaty. It's pretty small. So what's going on? Why do you think we have seen this continued resistance from Senate Republicans to move forward on ratifying this?
Unfortunately, it comes down to a partisan issue where there's, I think, a real reluctance in the Republican Party to give the Obama administration a win on anything. There are a few residual substantive issues, but this treaty enjoys broad bipartisan support. Both sides of the aisle support this. I think now that they've got cloture, they've got an end of debate, it will probably get ratified. But this is classic end of session brinkmanship that happens every time Congress goes for adjournment. Is there
spillover for the U.S. relationship with Russia? Because at this point, things have been fairly amicable, and certainly we saw Russia's sort of somewhat heightened participation at the NATO summit. It felt like that was moving toward a positive direction. Is there going to be fallout here?
If the Senate refuses to give consent to its ratification, then yes, there will be spillover. That will be very bad. That's a really damaging thing for any president, Democrat or Republican, when he can't deliver his own country on something like this.
All right, Richard, thank you very much.